Today's video, we're going to be doing a cost analysis breakdown of all the various chemistries and manufacturers of common solar batteries and how they stack up against my new Tesla battery. Because if you take the charge cycle life into account and also other factors that we're going to go over like energy density, the Tesla battery is so good. It's not even funny. It's crazy how cheap it is for what you get, how much power you get. And so in this analysis, I took a lot of common batteries like sealed lead acid, VMAX, Trojan 105s, Battle-Born lithium iron phosphate, do-it-yourself lithium iron phosphate. So if you buy the prismatic cells yourself and build one at home with the BMS. Another analysis is Goal Zero lithium 3000s, Energy Kodiaks, and then my Tesla batteries. So I took all of these batteries and I found out how much it would cost for around 5 to 6 kilowatt hours. And then I compared them for the cost of 1,000 kilowatt hour. And then I compared them for a charge cycle life of 1,000 cycles. And so you will be amazed at how cheap lithium has become nowadays. If that's the main takeaway of this video is anything, is that lithium is dirt cheap. And if you buy a Tesla battery and you make your own BMS system, it is insanely cheap. So let's go down through these. If you buy 8 135 amp hour deep cycle sealed lead acid batteries from VMAX, which is a company that I love, they're really great batteries, you will spend $2,100 for 5.4 kilowatt hours, and that's usable at 50% depth of discharge for 1,000 cycles. That's what the battery is rated for. So the cost for 1 kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles is going to be $388. All right, that's the metric that we're going to use. If you ignore everything else that I'm talking about and you look at just that metric, that will tell you how much the battery costs over a long duration of time. So for the sealed lead acid VMAX, which I love and they're good batteries, but they're very heavy, it will be $388 for 1 kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles. In that system, for 5.4 kilowatt hours, will weigh 616 pounds. That is a lot of freaking lead acid. That is heavy. The next one is going to be Trojan flooded batteries. So if you take the 105, which is the most common 6-volt battery that people use for RV applications, it'll cost $1,300 for 5.4 kilowatt hours of usable at 50% depth of discharge at the 22-hour rate, and then you will get the 1,000 cycles going by their data sheet. That means that for 1,000 cycles per kilowatt hour, it will be $240. So first of all, we have the sealed lead acid, $388, and then Trojan is $240. So obviously the sealed lead acid is going to cost more because you have the recombinant system with the valve regulation. So yes, it costs more to manufacture sealed lead acid. That's why people like Trojan. But also understand that Trojan, the coulombic efficiency or whatever, is like 70%. So you lose 15% in, 15% out when you put electricity in and out of it. A sealed lead acid by VMAX is going to be like 95%. Around that much, so that means that you're only going to lose 2.5% putting it in, 2.5% letting it out. I just wanted to get those out of the way and explain all of those first because those are the lead acids. Now we're going to talk about lithium. So look at the price decrease here. So if you use Battle-Born lithium iron phosphate, you will spend $3,600 for 4.8 kilowatt hours, but it's rated for 3,000 to 5,000 cycles. That means it lasts 3 to 5 times or more longer than the flooded or the sealed lead acid because those are only able to charge for 1,000 cycles. So for the Battle-Born lithium iron phosphate, for 1 kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles, it only costs $150 to $250. $250 as if it lasts only 3,000 cycles. Most people with lithium iron phosphate and with solar usages, it will last about 5,000 cycles. And instead of 600 pounds or 496 pounds for the lead acid, the Battle-Born is only 116 pounds for 4 of their batteries to make that 4.8 kilowatt hours. So already we have a weight decrease of 5-fold decrease in weight. And then we also have, it's like half the cost or more, less than the lead acid already. And this is the most expensive lithium battery there is. And it's really nice though. It has lots of safety features and it's a great battery. The next one is if you build your own lithium iron phosphate battery with prismatic cells. Prismatic cells are really nice. And also, when it comes to having a BMS for a do-it-yourself lithium iron phosphate, there are very high quality ones and very cheap ones. Some that can handle a high amperage for the short current protection and other things like that, and some that are not so good. So it really depends on how much you spend. But if you want to buy just the cells, it costs $2,400 for 4.8 kilowatt hours of cells. And the high quality BMS cost can vary, but it can be pretty expensive. And this is why I tell most people just to buy the Battleborn instead of building it yourself, because for the price, the Battleborn is actually really, really good. And you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to worry about it catching on fire. You don't have to worry about setting charge parameters. You literally just plug it in, put your charge controller on sealed, and you're done. And it charges it right up to 14.5 and you're done. So, and this is rated for 3,000 to 5,000 cycles. So it's the same as the Battleborn. And it costs 100 to 166 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles. And it weighs 114 pounds. So it's almost the same weight as the Battleborns because they're probably using the same cells. And it's pretty much the same battery as the Battleborn, but instead of, spending 250 to 150, you're spending only 166 to $100. So that's way cheaper already. But like I said earlier, with the BMS and all the other things to think about, I would probably go for the Battleborn. Now let's compare it real quick to Goal Zero and Energy Kodiaks. So if you bought the Goal Zero Lithium 3000s and you bought 2 of them to make a total of 6 kilowatt hours so that we can compare it to all the other ones, it would cost $6,000. All right, and it is rated for 500 cycles. I don't know why or how. They're using a nickel manganese cobalt oxide battery chemistry last time I checked, and it's only rated for 500 cycles. That should be like 1,000 to 5,000 cycles. I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make much sense to me. Please ask Goal Zero. I don't get it. Anyways, that means that it will cost $2,000 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles. That is ridiculous. Goal Zero is crazy, and they have the worst charge rate on the planet. It takes like a week to charge their batteries. I don't understand it. Next, it weighs 137 pounds for going with Goal Zero if you buy 2 of their 3000s. Okay, let's compare this to the Energy Kodiak. If you bought 4 Energy Kodiaks, you would get 4.4 kilowatt hours, so not as much as the Goal Zero, but it would cost $7,500. And it would be rated for 2,000 cycles. So it lasts 4 times as long as the Goal Zero, has a faster charge rate, and lots of other features. It's crazy. I like the Goal Zero's output, and I like their inverter and the discharge rate capabilities of their battery, but the Energy Kodiak all around is better. I don't think any solar generator on the market right now is good enough for me, especially with what I like to do, but the Energy Kodiak blows away the competition. So that means that instead of $2,000 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles is the Goal Zero Lithium 3000, it will be $852 per kilowatt hour per 1,000 cycles. So you guys can see how expensive it is, these solar generators, compared to building your own modular system. Next, how much do these things weigh? The Goal Zero Lithium 3000s weigh 137 pounds with 2 of them. And then the Energy Kodiaks, if you have 4 of them, which almost have the same kilowatt hour, you're missing 1 kilowatt hour, it's 80 pounds. So it's not that big of a weight difference, but the Goal Zero is a bit hefty. Now let's talk about the Tesla battery that I'm using. I have to save the best for last because this is just insane. I absolutely love it. So for $1,300 shipped with taxes from eBay, that's what I spent last week for this new system, I get 5.3 kilowatt hours. And most of that is usable. I'm changing the state of charge so that I go up to 90% and down to 10%, so I can get like 20,000 charge cycles out of the system or more, depending on how I use it. But considering the discharge rate capabilities and stuff, I think I'll be able to hit the maximum amount. For my estimated cost, though, I'm going to say 5,000 cycles, just to be fair. But I calculated $49 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles, and it weighs only 55 pounds. It is the lightest, it is the strongest, it's the cheapest, it lasts the longest. It's insanity. The only difference, though, is lithium iron phosphate definitely better, more safer chemistry. But if you don't overcharge this thing and you do not let it freeze the Tesla battery and you know what you're doing, the Tesla battery by far is ridiculously good. And also, if you look, there's a bunch of other videos about the Tesla battery chemistry and how they're changing it over the years. And you cannot beat it. I mean, the energy density, charge cycle life, degradation after like 2,000 cycles, because they had this new study come out that after 800,000 miles, you should only lose like 20%, blah, blah, blah. So, and that's after heavy use with the car. So it's crazy how cheap lithium is. So let's go over this real quick again. Sealed lead acid, cost for 1,000 watt hours for 1,000 cycles, $388. Flooded, $240. Battleborn, $250 to $150. The do-it-yourself lithium is going to be $166 to $100. Gold Zero lithium is $2,000. The Energy Kodiak is $852, and the Tesla battery is $49 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles. And these are pretty fair conservative measures, and I'm using the data sheets off the websites for Trojan, for VMAX, for Battleborn. I took the numbers off of their websites and plugged them in. It's a straightforward analysis. So isn't that just crazy though? Like how cheap the Tesla battery is. It almost makes me want to buy Tesla batteries, put my own BMS system on it, and then ship them out to other people around the country, because $49 per kilowatt hour for 1,000 cycles, that's just insanity. Like, you just can't compare. Like, sealed lead acid and flooded Trojan batteries, these guys are like, oh, they're so cheap. They are not cheap. They are like the most expensive options on the market. And it's understandable if you buy a lithium solar generator, why you're paying so much more. I mean, obviously you're getting an inverter, a solar charge controller, you're getting a company that will swap out the battery if it's bad. You're getting a whole bunch of other stuff, but going by the cost of the battery. But if you do a do-it-yourself lithium iron phosphate and you get 5,000 cycles, it's $100. So that's not that bad, and they don't go out of balance that easily. You can also charge them up not all the way to what they're recommended to, and then just balance them every couple months, and they'll probably be fine. Usually cells don't go out of balance unless you are like charging and discharging 100% each time really fast. I used to do that with my drone batteries. I was like discharging at 60 amps, like really high C ratings. And of course it's going to go out of balance. But for what we're doing in solar applications, it's very easy. And that's why this Tesla battery system that I have right now is just so easy for me to maintain. There's nothing I have to really do. You just have a low discharge cutoff, you don't overcharge it, and you don't let it freeze. And heating isn't a big factor because the discharge rate capabilities of the Tesla battery is like 1,100 amps. That's another thing that we could talk about, is the discharge capability. The solar generators, it's not that great. You can run a 1,000 to 2,000 watt inverter, whoopity-doo-dah, that's not that amazing. But if you have like a do-it-yourself lithium iron phosphate or the Battleborn lithium iron phosphate, you're going to be amp limited, because the do-it-yourself lithium, depending on how fast you can discharge, will determine, you know, how much the battery can actually be used for your application. And if you have a Battleborn lithium, to give you a rough example, each one is 100 amp discharge limit. So if you have like a 2,000 watt inverter, you need 3 of those batteries to run it. And if you do anything more than that, you can hurt it and it will cut itself off. With the lead acid, you don't have to worry. Even a small 135 amp hour can discharge a safe 1,000 amps, no problem. And then if you want to, the short circuit discharge rate capability is like 2,500 on those, so it's incredible. But the Tesla battery, 1,100 amps. That's insane. And so for using for solar, I don't have to worry about discharge capabilities at all. If I was using lithium iron phosphate and I was using a drop-in lead acid replacement, I would have to care, because if you don't have enough batteries to support your loads, it will not run it. So yeah, anyways, this is crazy. Isn't that amazing how cheap these things are? Like, I love my Tesla battery. I'm also making a lot of changes to this thing. I've been rewiring some things. I also upped the size gauge wire for the inverter, and I've been load testing it. Like this morning I was doing 1,600 watts continuous with the pure sine wave inverter, and it runs it flawlessly. It's crazy how much power this system has though, because I haven't, run it down at all. it's so much power and it charges so fast because it's lower resistance. That's a whole nother thing that we could talk about too, is the low resistance of lithium batteries. Like a flooded lead acid is hard to put electricity into and out of. There's a lot of resistance. It creates heat. It's not as efficient. With a lithium battery, if my solar panels are getting sunshine, it will push it into that battery because there's not much resistance. The efficiency is very high as well. So, I mean, we're talking like 98, 99%. Flooded is like 70. And when you have a solar power system and every amp counts, that's huge. So I just want you guys to know, whether you do lithium iron phosphate or a Tesla battery, if you're a beginner, just stick with the lithium iron phosphate on my website and don't think about it. You don't have to worry about fires. You don't have to worry about low temperature cutoff. You literally put it in there and you're done. But if you want the best price and the most power, and you want to use it for a long time and you know what you're doing, a Tesla battery is the way to go for now. There are some other car manufacturer like the Nissan Leaf battery that you could use. For my inverter and my charge controller, this 24-volt system works really well. And I have my panels wired in series and parallel groups, but I have an open circuit voltage of like 42 volts. So for this system, the Tesla battery is great. If you really want to use a 48-volt system and you have, lots and lots of panels in series, then sure, use that. But for most people, I would say just lithium iron phosphate or a Tesla battery. There are some other options. If you're a super beginner, just use some Energy Kodiak or something else. I don't like any of the solar generators though, like for long-term use for what I do, because the Energy Kodiak is really good and that's the only one that I would ever use. But it's just, there's so many shortcomings compared to a modular system. I mean, the discharge rate and charge rate capabilities of a modular system are like 10 times that of like these silly little solar generators. So, and these things can handle a higher charge rate. I don't understand why they're so low. I know that they're using cheaper BMS and they want to be safe, but I don't understand it. Somebody needs to come out with a lithium iron phosphate solar generator that can handle high charge and high discharge rate. Maybe a 5 amp hour battery would be perfect at 12 volts. But 24 volts, you get all sorts of other benefits. But you need to make sure your panels are wired in series to at least 30 volts open circuit. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video useful. I'm so glad I did this cost analysis breakdown because it's so interesting. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions and I'll talk to you later.